Good morning, YouTube America. And it is morning, even though it's dark outside. Welcome to Iowa. I know weather's coming in. This isn't Alaska, so we do get some sunshine here. But, I guess Minnesota gets it less than we do. But, winter's coming. World Building 101 plus. When I was considering something the other day, and it's been, mucking around in the head, bouncing around in here, and I figured I better talk about. I've mentioned it a couple of times about NPCs, monsters, in the Dungeons and Dragons, in several different source books, including, I think, every installment of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I believe most of the Monster Manual ones have these variants in there. What it talks about is upgrading or advancing your NPCs or your monstrous critters. And we're talking the intelligent stuff, but they can also work for the beastly stuff that's not so intelligent. A upgraded warthog is pretty nasty. So, you don't think about it, wild pig. Just watch some of the videos and stuff out there. There's nasty critters. What I like to do, and this belongs part of the continuity or the continuum of the campaigns I like to generate. And I usually like to take a long view, long-term campaign. One of the things I keep in mind is intelligent creatures in general are not stupid. That's something a lot of GMs tend to forget, I think. The book says, well, we're just going to keep hacking and slashing on this thing until it's dead. Well, you go after a bear and you shoot it enough, the bear tries to run away. It tries to run away to keep from dying. Even a dumb animal will flee when it's in pain and it's outnumbered or outgunned or threatened. I like to see that in the gaming a little bit more than what I see and always have seen. The same thing goes for the critters. Now, look, the goblinoids might be slow or stupid or aggressive, but they're and bloodthirsty, but they're not mindless, totally mindless, cretins. There are a few of those, but even those, after a minute, start to realize, oh, if I keep staying here, I'm going to die. Well, too many players or GMs like to just keep hacking and hacking until throwing these things in until everybody's dead. Now, I don't believe that. So I've always felt that they deserve a chance to run away. Now, so if I have a small party of goblins who jump a party of players, and the players whack 50% or more of the group, or the main leader of the group, I will roll a roll and check their, maybe a wisdom check or a common sense check, or even just to flip a coin 50-50 that they run away, that they want to flee, to live, to fight and try to murder you another day. And there's advantages for doing that. A lot of people, GMs don't think so. Neither do players. They want to, I want to kill them all, okay, fine. If they're a menace to society and you're trying to save the village, and maybe you need to do that. Or are you that, as players, are your characters that bloodthirsty? If they are, maybe, an alignment check is in order. I have a fluid view of alignments, and I'll deal with that in another session. As I was saying, what I like to do is I like to treat these creatures with a little bit of common sense and keep them active. There's a survivability factor. These guys are just trying to do what they normally do, live the lives that they usually live, and they're not keen on, sacrificing themselves. They're not kamikazes, and they're not zealots, not the majority of them. So, let them run away, give them a chance to get away. If the bad guys, if the players hunt them down, well, so be it. But I try to give them every opportunity, a chance to use some of their own skills and survival techniques to get away from the players. And in and of itself is another way of giving some entertaining game session and additional experience points, because sometimes, there's more than one way to beat a bush than to set it on fire. Cut it down with an axe, right? Another thing, I like to do is those that survive. Well, a lot of those monsters, monstrous critters and humanoids and stuff, they can be a little vengeful or feel that they've been wrong and they want to right that wrong, just like we do. And so, with that in mind, I like to have them come back as reoccurring visiting performers as part of this entertainment we're putting on. And I don't mean every other session. I might go 2 to 10, 2 to 10 weeks might go by before you see these guys again in actual game, not in game, but actual, real world time. And in that process, I adjust them. Like I said, in the source books, in the GM guide, in some of the monster manuals, several other places, there is the mechanics for doing that. You can increase these individuals' abilities. So what if love is part of living in a car, my friend? You gotta have light, you gotta turn the power on. That's to keep it or run the battery down. Uh, as I was saying, there's the advantages of these guys coming back as recurring characters in this ongoing story, or this theme of ours. Uh, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, we talk about warriors and warriors versus fighters. There's a big difference. Uh, that's where you can get your goblinoids. Majority of them are warriors. They're not actively trained fighters. The differences between warriors and fighters, well, that would be a whole other session as well. But I am also a believer that, like a lot of societies, most of these monstrous humanoids have a range of character classes. So why not allow, as a GM, develop, an ogre, an orc, or an ogre rogue instead of just a fighter, or a questionable shaman, or even a sorcerer. Wizards, well, I think that would have to depend on what kind of society these guys live in, how stable they are, because wizardry takes a lot more back support to do right. And I don't think this is why you don't generally see very many wizards in the orcs and goblins and gnolls and so on and so forth. Starting with the fact that rarely do their intelligence levels get that high to justify it, but it's a matter of stability and discipline, which they lack, and a cultural support base, which they kind of have at occasion, depending on how you look at it. What couple examples that come to mind in the Forgotten Realms stories, the Kingdom of Many Arrows, after it's been around for 15 or 20 years, it does adjust itself to allow for the possibility of wizard orcs developing. Whether or not they can find the discipline to do that, I don't know. There's always the exception to the rule, correct? Yes. And another alternate game is in MERP, in Middle-earth role-playing. Mount Gundabad is a orc stronghold, upwards of 30,000 orcs in a city, where the Misty Mountains meet the White Mountains, and have been a source of problems for the northern Middle-earth for 1,000 years. And it's large enough of a community with enough support base that it is quite possible that there are a few orcs that know how to cast some spells. Although MERP itself, as I think I've said before, does not necessarily lend itself to a whole lot of magic use, because that's not the nature of J.R.R. Tolkien's world. He did not envision people wandering around the lands just flinging fireballs and lightning bolts at a whim. That's Dungeons and Dragons, not MERP. MERP magic's a lot more subtle. I think that would be a whole nother episode. I think it's so. Like I said, I like to develop these monstrous NPCs, these increasingly, more potent beast. And one of the things that allows me to do is to go back to that deep well of encounters that we have, and potentially have some stuff that later on that the characters might initially dismiss, which is always a mistake with a clever or cunning GM. Never dismiss anything as being part of the norm. If it comes up, and there's a pack of wild dogs that are chasing you around. Oh, we can shoot them. We can take care of them. Turns out that they're something in disguise. Polymorphs going on here, or just maybe some tough dogs. Wild dogs can get to be good too. Get to be big and vicious. You ever face a pack of Malamutes, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, cunning dogs too. That's something to mess with. So keep that in mind, folks, when you're developing your world and your campaign, to not dismiss and to consider allowing a handful of the bad guys to escape, including the monsters, because hey, you successfully beat up that giant, and you kill half of his clan or his family. You leave him alone. 3 sessions later, or maybe a different game altogether comes up, and you can come up and say, this guy's out for vengeance. This guy's hunting your characters down and trying to systematically whack you. Just use this as an example. It's a freebie to you. I use that very concept at least one time very successful. I had a guy who was a player for a number of months, but then he dropped out to go on to other stuff. And he still had a character, and the character had actually been an important member of this group. And to just have them up and disappear is rough. So, typically, there's 2 ways to handle that sort of thing. The GM and the players just agree that the character just went off onto his own to do whatever it is that this character needed to do and move on with his world. And we, find a replacement, whether it's an NPC or another player. Another one is to have him die. That's very common too. Well, this character gets played as an NPC, and he plays a pivotal role in saving somebody or getting some MacGuffin or something, and Bob's your uncle, he's gone. I, on the other hand, thought it would be clever to have this hill troll, who was the last member of this small clan that these people had butchered savagely and raided and taken all their stuff. This guy was left for dead. Everybody thought he was dead, and his hit points were pretty low, and I just didn't think about it. And then I thought, hey, wouldn't this be clever? So I waited about 10 or 11 weeks, if I recall. By that time, everybody had leveled up 3 or 4, and I thought, well, this guy had been through some fights. He survived this encounter. He's doing just like them. So I gave him an appropriate boost in experience, and give him some went through the monster manual and give him additional feats and some adjustments to his hit points and so forth. And so when he came at them, he was a much tougher hombre than what he was the first time. And he got in the first swing and caved in the skull of this particular former player turned NPC, and dead as a post. Bang. Everybody's like, whoa, what happened to Joe? That ain't right. And of course it was on like Donkey Kong. And they, if I remember right, didn't quite kill this guy. I think he didn't quite kill this guy, and he managed to escape. I don't remember, he threw himself off a cliff or he fell down a steep slope of a mountain-like cliff. I just know he got away from him, and I think I intended to bring him back at a later date, but that particular campaign came to an end 3 or 4 weeks later for other reasons. I'm not sure what it was. It was a mutual agreement that we wanted to do something different, I think. And sometimes that happens. I run a campaign for 6 months, and everybody just gets tired of it. I get tired of it. Well, got a bookcase of different game systems. Let's pull something off the rack to try something different. Or maybe, hey, Joe, you want to run a game? Hey, I'd love to play it. It just seemed like one time out of 9 I get to play, as a player. You know what it is. But keep in mind that you can do some great things with your NPC monsters and not totally, you know, pass that concept over. And keep in mind that the majority of them will run in self-preservation, survival. They're not foolish. They're not stupid. If nothing else, make a survival check for them. Give them that chance. You know, don't just think they deserve it because are we? If our alignment's neutral, good, or good in any form, aren't we supposed to be at least a little empathetic? Yeah. Good night, there, folks.